As you're ready, come up to all fours position. In all fours position, step the hands one giant step forward, draw your pelvis back, relax your head so your arms and your ears line up. Just move your pelvis, just move it way to the right. So you stretch through the left side and come back to center and move the pelvis way to the left. So you stretch the right. So as you move now the pelvis to the right again, and as you move the pelvis to the right, push your left hand toward the front of the mat and pull your right hand toward your right knee. It's an isometric action. Come back to the center and do the same on the left side. So reach your pelvis to the left side. And as you push your right hand toward the front of the mat, same thing, pull with the left hand. And come back to the center position. Step your right foot right between your hands. Now, I like using blocks for all of this, especially at the beginning of the practice, because it just allows me to settle a little bit deeper in the poses here. So, with your hands to the blocks or the floor, just come to an easy lunge here. Draw your heart forward. Take the heads of the arm bones back and press down through the base of the right big toe. Keep your left hand on the floor or the block. Lift your right arm up. Spread your right fingers and reach the right hand over toward the left side and come back to the block and come to all fours position. Same thing in all fours position. Step your hands a giant step forward. Have your pelvis draw back. It's like you're going toward child's pose, but we're not fully going to all the way to child's pose. As you reach your pelvis toward the right, stretch your left hand more toward the left side of the mat and pull the right hand in. Come back to the center and stretch your pelvis to the left. Reach your right hand and pull with the left hand. Come back to the center position, up to all fours. Same thing. If you'd like to use blocks, step your left foot right between your blocks and just draw yourself down. Just pause here. Walk your blocks back so that you've got just this nice opening to the chest, upper body openness. This really reflects the glow of the practice, your commitment to the practice so fully. Stretch the right side ribs by lifting your right arm up and spreading your right fingers. Reach over to the left side and let the pelvis just settle a little bit lower toward the earth. Release your right hand to the block and same thing, come back, but this time with your hands in all fours position and a giant step forward of your hands. Lift yourself up to downward facing dog. So as you lift yourself up, lift your heels up high, press all the fingertip tops down, and shift your pelvis over to the right side to really lengthen through the left side ribs. Come back to the center position, shift over to the left and stretch the right side. Come back to the center and walk your feet toward your hands. Place your hands right to the low back, hug your elbows in and rise up. And just pause here in Tadasana. There's this expression that musicians use, and especially stringed instrument players, they say we tune because we care. And in yoga, like we stop the action for Tadasana. We stop, we pause. We pause because we care. We pause to allow this inner glow to expand more fully. So as you stand, In Tadasana, spread your fingers and spread your toes as a way to tone and engage the upper body. Inhale, lift your arms up and slightly back. Exhale, come to the forward fold. Just pause here in the forward fold. And as you pause in the forward fold with your feet wide apart, take your right hand somewhere to the outside of the left leg, bend your right elbow, and just draw the elbow down. So some of us can take the right hand pretty close to the ankles. So just customize the twist for you. Come back to the center. Take your left hand somewhere to the outside of the right leg, bend your left elbow, draw your heart toward the right leg, and just soften down. So the more you reach your left elbow toward the mat, the more you can engage and just feel the lengthening going on the left side ribs. Come back to the center position. Step your feet so that they're hip distance apart. Bend both knees. Place your hands right above your knees. Now lift your heels up just slightly. So you're balancing yourself. You're really working your toes a little bit more. Your heels are just barely lifted off the mat. That engages. That creates a little fiery action in your legs. And from that, you can lift your arms up. Now press your heels down with your arms lifted, with your fingers spread, with your front ribs drawing back as if trying to kiss your back ribs. Just get this fullness in the kidney area. And inhale, lift yourself up. Exhale, come down to the forward fold again. Step your right foot back to come to a lunge position. Take your hands to right above your left knee and rise up. Just balance yourself here. Interlace your fingers behind your head and press your head back. Now draw your elbows in toward each other and see about just holding on to the top of the shoulders there, the trapezius. It might feel really tight, so see if you can get it to soften a little bit more. Let the forearms just kind of cradle your head, but yet have this lifting action so that you just get a nice length in the neck. From there, stay balanced and reach your arms up. Take your hands wider apart and just spread your arms nice and wide. So your arms are out to your side. Now twist. Take your right arm forward, take your left arm back. Turn your heart toward the side. And now take your hands down to the mat. Step back to downward facing dog. Pause here in downward facing dog. The commitment as expressed through just showing up on your mat sometimes. The commitment and just taking your attention to your breath, to your alignment, to the muscle actions that you perform in the pose. All of these enable you to find that tejas, that sense of glow. So from downward facing dog, with that feeling of effulgence, that nice balanced action, keep that as you come to a plank position. Draw your knees to the mat. Take your toenails to the mat. Take the tops of the thighs to the mat and bend your elbows. With your elbows bent, pull your hands in toward each other and reach your heart forward. Have the baby toe side of the foot press down to open the pelvis even more. That just opens the hips nicely. And exhale, come back to downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, just pause here. Before walking your feet up to your hands, place both hands to the low back and rise up. Sweep your arms up and slightly back. Exhale, come down to the earth with your hands right alongside your ankles to step your left leg back. Balance yourself here by taking your hands right above your knee. Stay balanced in your high lunge. Take your hands behind your head. And same thing, press your head back, draw your elbows in toward each other. Maybe you can even take your thumbs on the front part of your trapezius, your forefingers behind, and just kind of find out if you can get some softening in the trapezius muscle as you reach your arms up to the sky. Keep the softness in the shoulders. Take your hands nice and wide apart, and same thing, come to the twist. Take your left hand forward, your right hand back. Keep a nice opening in the chest, and cycle your arms down. Step back to downward facing dog. Pause there. We tune because we care, say the musicians. And in yoga, we breathe because we care. We pause in our poses to find that glow. We align because we care. We engage because we care. All these actions that make just our practice feel like we're coming to this place of homeostasis, it's called, this place where we're balanced. Come to a plank position. In plank, draw your knees to the mat, draw your toenails to the mat, draw the tops of the thighs to the mat, and bend your elbows. So you open the chest a lot as you pull the elbows in toward each other. Come back to child's pose, or to that puppy dog pose that we started with, whichever works for you. Walk your hands over to the right side. Reach out with the left hand. Pull in with the right hand. Draw your left sit bones a little bit closer to the mat. Shift back to the center position. Spread the fingers, and as you claw the mat, pull in toward the pelvis. Walk your hands over to the opposite side, and in the same way, you want to reach toward the top, toward the left side with the right hand, but pull toward the left side with the left hand. Shift back to the center position. Come to downward facing dog just as a way to transition to bring us to Tadasana. So from downward facing dog, we'll come to Tadasana by walking the hands back toward the feet, coming toward like this frog pose or a squat position. Walk your hands forward again to come to downward facing dog. Now, to find your way to Tadasana, walk your feet toward your hands with your knees bent. Place your hands to your low back and rise up. Again, find Tadasana. Find your perfect Tadasana. As you stand tall with your feet hip distance apart, just allow the breath to flow very fully, very evenly, in a way that allows you to open up, to glow. This tejas, this glow that allows you to just kind of express your practice so fully. So come back to a nice wide stance on your mat. So step wide. Place your hands right at your hip points. Turn your right toes out toward the front of the mat and bend your right knee. Take your hands right to the inside of the ankle. And you know, I just love using blocks for these poses. They just make us go a little bit deeper here. So if you want your hands on blocks, by all means. Now bend your elbows. So even though your hands are elevated, by bending your elbows, that helps to elevate your shoulders, right? So take your right block to the outside of your right foot, if possible. And just let your shoulder just kind of drift down a little bit lower. So it's quite a hip opening here that we're doing. If the hand doesn't want to come to the outside of the foot, just take it to the inside and pause here. You stay committed to the pose. Now step your block to the inside of your right ankle. Take your left hand to your waist. Work your inner shin bone, your inner knee, to the upper arm, and then work the arm back into the leg. It's just a way to express that commitment by the leg, by the arm. Take the head of the left arm bone back, reach your left arm up and spread your fingers. Reach over so that you get this nice length all the way from the back foot to the fingertips. Just shine out. You express this glow in the pose. Inhale, lift yourself out of the pose and parallel your feet. With your feet parallel in prasarita padangustasana, take your arms in this elbow frame and allow your heart to draw down as you allow your elbow frame to just kind of create a little bit more weight here for the upper body. And just kind of move your elbow frame left and right. Just allows a little bit more opening here. Come back to the center in stillness. With your knees slightly bent, place your hands to your low back. Inhale, lift yourself up. Come to the opposite side. So turn your left toes out. And if you're like me and you like using the blocks, use them. If you don't like using the blocks, forget it. So bend your left knee. Take your hands down to the floor or blocks. And same thing, just keep on bending your elbow. Maybe you can even take your block or your hand to the outside of your foot and draw down a little bit more. Just kind of find out for you this morning what works. Take your block now to the inside of the ankle. Press down, or just take your hand to the inside of the ankle. Take your right hand to the pelvis. Turn your heart. Inhale, reach your arms up. Reach your arm over your head and get this nice length. And release now to come back to feet parallel. With your feet parallel to each other, just allow yourself to draw down. Just release your head and neck. Keep your hands to the floor or blocks. This time, rather than moving your upper body like we were swinging in the last pose, swinging side to side, move your pelvis. Just shift your pelvis to the right, to the left. And as you do, you'll just kind of wake up the inner thigh area, the hip area. Just easy movements, shifting slightly to the right and to the left. Inhale, press into the blocks, heel toe your feet in toward one another. With your knees bent, place your hands right above your knees. Keep your knees bent and try to lift your heels up just slightly to really engage the legs to show that great commitment. And through that commitment, that's the glow that we get. That's the tejas that we're looking for. Lift your arms up, press your heels down, take your gaze right between your hands, root down to inhale and rise up. Exhale, release your hands and just pause here. Pause and receive a nice in breath and out breath. We'll be practicing on one leg now, but we'll have our hands to the mat or to blocks. So if you'd like to use your blocks, by all means, go ahead. So have your blocks at least shoulder width apart if you're using them. Same thing if you're on your hands. Just take your hands pretty wide apart, center your left foot, lift your right leg in the air. Draw the gaze toward your right toes and see about spreading them to get a little bit more glow in the leg. See about keeping your left hand where it is, but take your right hand to your waist and just try to open up the heart. Lift your right hip up. So the hips were in this more closed position. Now you're opening them up. Take your hips back to parallel hip points to the mat. With your right hand on the block or the floor, take your left hand to your waist or your low back and twist yourself in the opposite direction. Release your hand down and release your right leg down. Same thing with the left leg. Press your right foot down. Start with the left leg in the air. Look back toward the left toes and spread your toes. Take weight on the right leg and the right hand. Free your left hand. Just open your hip really nicely. It's like you're stacking your left hip over your right. Take the left hip point down, so both hip points face the earth. Keep that. Take your right hand to the low back. Twist. Release your right hand to the block. Release your left foot to the mat. Now that you've got the idea of what we're doing, just do your version here. We'll do this 3 separate poses, and you have to stay committed in the standing leg. If you just feel like some hip agitation, by all means, bend your knees slightly so the top of the thigh goes back a little bit more. So as you start, center your left foot with your hands to the floor or blocks. Lift your right foot up. Lift your right hip high. Take your right hand to the hip. If you'd like to lift your right arm up, go ahead and do that. Take your right hand down, parallel your hip points, and come to the opposite side. Take the left hand to the waist, or you can lift it up. Take your left hand down. Take your right foot down. Again, we're going a little faster on this side. Take your left foot up. Lift your left hip. Take your left arm up. Take your left hand down. Parallel your hips. Twist. Take the right hand to the waist. If you'd like to, lift your right arm up. Take the hand down and take the left foot down. Last time, with your left foot down, lift your right foot up. You can keep your hands to the blocks or the mat if you wish, or come to this ardha chandrasana pose. Come out of the pose, parallel the hips, come to the twist, and change sides. So Take your right foot down to the middle of the mat. Take your left leg up. Open up. Come back to center. And do the twist. And back to center. Release your left foot. Place your hands to your low back and rise up. Come to a seated pose. And in your seated pose, have your feet nice and wide apart. With your feet wide apart, and bend your knees. And cross your right arm up and over, land it down, come to a twist, and bow forward. Inhale, press into the earth and rise up. Lift your knees up and come to the opposite side. So lift your left arm up. Come to the twist. If you'd like to bow forward, drawing your heart toward the earth, please do. Inhale, lift yourself up and come over again. Take your knees to the opposite side. Reach out, reach as far as you can out with your right hand as you bow down. Inhale, lift yourself up. Same thing. Lift your knees up. Take your left arm up. Reach it way out. Extend it way out as you use your right hand to lift your right ribs up. Your left hand reaches out, similar to what we were doing earlier in the child's pose. Inhale, rise up, and come back to sit with your feet forward. With your feet forward, press your thighs down, bend your left knee, and as you bend your left knee, park your foot nicely, twist so that you turn your heart toward the bent knee side. As you twist, reach your right arm up to expand the right ribs. Bend your elbow to park the elbow down. Continue this nice fullness in your twist. And breathe in deep. And breathe out long. Breathe in deep. Breathe out long. And come back out of the pose. Yeah, other side. So bend your right leg. Inhale, lift your left arm up. Exhale, twist. If you'd like to take your hand to the outside of the knee, elbow to the outside of the knee. Strong action in your extended leg as you twist. And shift out of the pose. Take both legs forward. If you've got a strap, you may want to use it. Place your strap around the base of your toes there. And as you press your toes into the strap, sit tall. Just get this feeling of commitment from the legs, this feeling of total engagement. And from that commitment, from that kind of heat of commitment, you find this glow. So bend your elbows and draw your heart toward your toe tips. Walk your fingers in and just kind of soften down. And inhale, lift yourself up. Then let's do that same pose, but on our back. So lie on your back with your feet lifted and with your strap around the base of the toes there. So take the strap around both feet. Hold on to both feet and just notice the difference. That last pose that we were doing, dandasana, is the home base of yoga, of seated yoga poses. So this pose where we're lying on the back, chances are, if you're like me, uh, which of course we're all different, but many of us feel like our low back is pressing into the mat. So take your feet either forward or back. For most of us, it's back a little bit so that you can create a nice lumbar curve. Keep that lumbar curve. And as you keep that lumbar curve, let your left foot free itself from the yoga strap and just release it down toward the mat. And it's just like a sliver above the mat, not actually touching the mat. So keep the action of the left leg, that glow, that heat of commitment from the left leg as you draw your right foot just slightly over to the right side. So the left leg is so active. And maybe you can just kind of feel the mat just slightly tap the heel, but that leg stays so active. That really supports the lumbar curve. You're just moving the right foot over just slightly. Inhale, take your right foot back, slip your left foot into the strap. So both feet are in the yoga strap. And same thing, first just holding on. It just feels so great to take them right over your head. That's one type of stretch. But for this, we're actually taking our feet back more so that we can get the natural curves of the spine to be expressed. And as you press your foot into the strap, just let the right foot just free itself and draw toward the mat and just kind of first tap the mat so you find out where the mat is. But lift the right heel just slightly away from the mat. Keep the toes of the right foot very engaged. Free your right arm and just let your left foot, supported by the strap, go slightly to the left side while still keeping the engagement of the right leg. So the toes are nicely spread so that you get this really nice engagement of the full leg. And inhale, lift the leg back to center. Take the right foot back to the strap, like where we started. And just spread the feet nice and wide apart. So the feet are still on the mat, on the strap. Take your feet back slightly. Of course, a longer strap really helps with this, but just take your feet as wide apart as your strap will allow. Find the curve again. As you find the curve, just press the base of the toes into the strap. Keep that nice lumbar curve. Press the feet nicely. Now do the opposite. So you'll just see how naturally in the standing forward bend that we were doing, now you have to round the spine as you take the feet over the head. So it's the same pose that we were doing earlier in the practice when we were standing on our feet with our feet parallel. Now we're just drawing the feet over the head, and you see that the spine has to round for that pose. Good. Keep on reaching the feet forward. So quite a stretch. If the backs of the legs are feeling overstretched, it's time for you to bend your knees slightly. And slowly release your feet back to come to that position where there is a nice lumbar curve. You're pressing your feet into the yoga strap nicely. Now slide your feet on the strap so that they're both together. You've found that nice lumbar curve again. Take your strap off your feet. Keep your heels lifted nicely, your toes spreading nicely. Slowly release your right foot toward the mat, and in the same way, You can find the mat, but don't hang out on the mat with the right foot. You can find it, just tap it down, but you're not supporting your right foot yet. Inhale, lift your right foot up. Same thing with the left leg. Just draw it down oh so slowly. Keep on engaging from the toes all the way to the pelvis. You come toward the mat, maybe even tapping it. Inhale, you lift your foot up. Exhale, draw your right foot down toward the mat as if tapping. Keep your right foot engaged and take your left foot over to the right side just slightly. Inhale, lift up, lift both feet up. Exhale, draw your left foot toward the mat, maybe even tapping it to find out where it is. Take your right foot over to the left side. Inhale, lift your right foot up, lift your left foot up, bend your knees, place your hands right at your kneecaps, and with your palms pressing your kneecaps, press the femur, the thigh bone, back to the mat so you get this nice natural curve. And press your knees into the palms of your hands. Just rock slightly side to side, nice slow rocking action. Come back to the center position. Lengthen your legs. Just stretch your right leg. Stretch your left leg. And pause here in Shavasana. The commitment of your practice just puts you into this place where the inner body feels really bright, where the outer body is soft. You breathe in deep. You breathe out long. Breathe in. Breathe out long. Breathe in. Breathe out long. Very slowly, you can bend your knees to plant your feet. On your next in-breath, reach your arms up over your head and just allow your breath to create this fullness in the upper body while you still stay so rooted in the pelvis. Draw over to your side and just pause here. Very slowly press into the floor to lift yourself up. Come to a seated position. In your seated position, place your hands right in front of your heart. Let's honor this glow that we work in our practice from the inside out. We find that fullness from the heat of the practice, from the commitment of the practice. We honor this practice with one Om. Draw your breath in. Om. To that glow, to that tejas, we bow. Namaste.